Speaking of Kellogg's, and I did not know this, but apparently breakfast cereal was made to invent, or were invented to curb the sex drive.
The industry that we know and love today began with this, Kellogg's Corn Flakes. This is the food that launched 1,000 bowls. And the stated purpose of this food from the outset was to not only satisfy your hunger for nutrients, but to also suppress your sexual appetite. In particular, to deaden your drive toward self-abuse. How's that going for you? The story of Dr. John Harvey Kellogg is truly one of the weirdest in food history, at least weird to contemporary sensibilities.
I do feel like everyone back then was just a f***ing weirdo. You know what I mean? Not to excuse him, by the way, because I love this shit, but like, everyone back then, if you were in a black and white photo, okay, you looked angry, you looked racist, and you did like really weird shit.
The progressive era clean living movement that Kellogg epitomized made a lot of sense in its historical context, and Kellogg turned out to be right about a lot of things. Maybe not so right about some others. See his late career interest in eugenics and race improvement. We're going to talk about Kellogg's technical innovations another day. Today we're talking about the philosophical origins of ready-to-eat cereal, the religion of biologic living. This book is by Dr. Brian C. Wilson of the Comparative Religion Department at Western Michigan University.
You know, I got a job at Western in Kalamazoo in 1996 and knew absolutely nothing about Michigan except for Kellogg's Corn Flakes came from Battle Creek, Michigan.
Indeed, whole generations of kids, including myself, grew up knowing that cereal...
This is just as informative and funnier. Not that you should switch, just that you failed at finding a good video. Fuck you. Like, what a fucking insane thing. You failed at finding a good video? How about you fucking start your own stream then, and you can find all the good ones?
Michigan. Why? Because we did what the box told us to do. We would fill out these little forms on the box offering various market research data about ourselves and then send it to an address in Battle Creek, Michigan. And in exchange, we would get some kind of cheap toy or prize in the mail. As a result, every kid in my part of the world knew about this otherwise unremarkable small Midwestern city. And the whole reason that Battle Creek is home to the Kellogg's and Post cereal companies is because it was first home to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, of which John Kellogg's father was a founding member.
And Seventh-day Adventism is a group that believes Jesus' second coming is going to happen soon, and that there's going to be a millennium on earth, 1,000 years of peace and prosperity that only the righteous and pure will be admitted to.
And that definition of purity was both spiritual and physical, hence the Adventist interest in healthcare. They founded the Western Health Reform Institute in Battle Creek, and they sent young John Kellogg to medical school so that he would come back and run the place, which he did for the rest of his life, renaming it the Battle Creek Medical Surgical Sanitarium. Kellogg actually coined the term sanitarium, which, contrary to what Metallica would lead you to believe, has nothing to do with sanity, it's sanitation. Kellogg was trying to emphasize the role of cleanliness in health. The San, as they called it for short, became a hugely popular health resort for people of all faiths, but Kellogg ran it on his interpretation of Adventist principles.
The Adventists were biblical literalists, and they believed that if a person was going to be in the millennium or go to heaven, it wasn't going to be as a disembodied spirit, but as a human being with a human body. And so you really, if you wanted to achieve this, you had to have a pure soul in a pure body.
You see a lot of emphasis on bodily purity in lots of religious and social movements of the 19th century, and historians have argued that this was in response to some very tangible worldly events. The Industrial Revolution was prompting a massive social transformation from dispersed rural life to concentrated urban life. Way more people than ever before living really close together and spreading diseases to each other. Dirty water diseases like cholera, dirty air diseases like tuberculosis, and...
We started this by looking at Biden's take on Kellogg's chatter. Thank you, though.
Shall we say, dirty mind diseases like syphilis and gonorrhea. This urban festival of yuck was accompanied by the emerging germ theory of disease, which correctly identified microorganisms spread through human and animal filth as being a major source of illness. And while all that was happening, industrialization was also making bodily vices more affordable and accessible than ever. Alcohol, tobacco, caffeine, sugar, really food in general. For most of human history, overindulgence has really only been possible for the highest echelons of society. But advances in agriculture and industry and commerce were making it possible for 19th century normals to have way too much to eat as well. And at the same time, they were working increasingly in factories and offices in the city instead of toiling out in the fields, and as a result, they weren't getting enough exercise to boot. Meat, in particular, was becoming far more abundant in the 19th century, and various religious and social reformers came to believe, with good reason, that meat was medically and morally problematic. They were right that livestock farming and meat eating were and still are major vectors of human disease, especially in these new industrialized stockyards they were getting in places like Chicago, not far from Battle Creek. And these reformers were right that fatty meats in particular, and also dairy, can be very rough on the digestion. Enter the American Presbyterian minister and father of vegetarianism, Sylvester Graham, for whom Graham flour and Graham crackers were named. Graham was a
Wait, I'm confused. So are you telling me that fucking vegans and vegetarians have been weirdos since like the beginning of time? Like alongside the normal ones? Is most normal vegan historically?
A proponent of roughly milled whole wheat flour. He was 100% right that industrial over-refining of grains was stripping away a lot of the nutrition. He was less right about some other things.
He had this entire system of health and spirituality. And it was all based on this kind of vitalist notion that human beings are born with a certain level of vital energy. And once we use up our vital energy, we're dead. Well, what are the kinds of things that use up vital energy? Well,
no fat, baby! Yo! The preservation of our vital energy that is hidden within our semen. That, by the way, that's Trump's theory as well, but not like, he doesn't bring it back to the semen, whereas Donald Trump doesn't believe in the semen part of it, but like a lot of fucking YouTubers unironically do. I love that, dude. No fap, semen retention Andes. Oh, that's great. That's fucking great.
Foods that are hard to digest, like meat and grease, or foods that are stimulating, like condiments, cinnamon, salt, pepper, sugar.
The idea was that delicious food forms part of a broader cycle of pleasure seeking, a cycle that not only corrupts your eternal soul, but saps your earthly body of its finite supply of vital energy, thereby shortening your life. The physical and spiritual cure was bland food.
Whole wheat flour, ground up, mixed with water, baked until hard, and that was it. And that's the birth, of course, of the graham cracker. And of course, we know it today with all sorts of additives.
To be fair, graham cracker is fire, though. I mean, graham crackers are pretty fucking fire. They're flames. I do respect that.
Salt and sugar and, chocolate s'mores, those kinds of things. But
I don't understand why, I don't understand why people literally make their lives a living hell in an effort to, avoid a potential hell. Bro, it's like, you see this, okay? You're living in this, and you're actively making it worse. Like, you're actively making your life worse, okay? With the hopes that, maybe you won't go to the hell place in the future. With, totally made up, these totally made up fucking rules. It's like,
vegans rise up as buff.
Because temporary hell is worse than eternal hell, I guess. I mean, this just sucks. Like, if the rules don't apply, and first of all, why don't the rules apply in heaven? Not to be like a r/atheist Andy, but it kind of doesn't make sense. Like, you can have fun in heaven, but you can't do it in the fucking real world when you're alive. Or do the same rules fucking apply there? You have to be like an annoying prude who can't even jerk off every now and then. You know what I mean? Because I'm clapping Nancy Reagan's cheeks. down in hell, of course, obviously. Let's be real, because that's where I'm going. You guys can stand up there, okay? You can be up in heaven, like, oh, look at me, oh, I'm in heaven. Like, yeah, you're not clapping Nancy Reagan's cheeks. So, guess what, dude? I'm having a three-way with Margaret Thatcher and Nancy Reagan. What are you guys doing? Well, Ronald Reagan's in the corner, you know, with a chastity cage on his penis. Hey, go have fun doing fucking Bible study
6
or whatever.
months. Felt the baby
It's boring.
today smile.
If there's a hell, I'm definitely going there after that thing I just said.
Sylvester Graham were alive today to see our s'mores, he'd be, you know, beside himself.
Now, back over in Michigan, Dr. John Kellogg took Graham's ideas and ran with them. Kellogg served his patients at the SAN an intentionally unenjoyable grain-based diet, and he preached abstinence from all manner of bodily pleasures, including sexual ones.
Kellogg really didn't have an unpublished thought.
Indeed, in this classic volume, Plain Facts for Old and Young, Kellogg mixes scientific and moral reasoning to argue that sexual gratification of any kind should be reserved solely for...
Yes, bro, you're not the first one to bring up that Nancy Reagan is famous for, like, giving great dome, but historians have often pondered, like, maybe people just didn't know how to suck good dick back then, and she wasn't even, like... I feel like the dick sucking technology is advanced. And by historians, I mean, didn't I talk to Felix about this or something? Or did I hear this in a podcast or something? Not Felix. I'm talking about Felix Biederman. The whole point is like, yeah, I feel like I did think about, I mean, I've definitely thought about this before, but like, the point is, like, now, we know how to suck dick as a society. Like, we've evolved, you know, with porn and all this other shit. Like, the Gawk Gawk 5000 is like the bar. And I feel like back in the day, it wasn't that wild. You know what I mean? Like 60s, 70s, they probably were just like, licking like little baby licks. You know what I mean? Little tiny fucking licks. It's like, no, that's unacceptable. So probably Nancy Reagan did something like, you know, a little bit more, you know, she did something, she used her hand or something, you know what I mean? And that's why everyone was like, what the fuck? That's crazy. That's like, whoa, she's using her hands. This harlot is using her hands. It's magic. Bro, prostitution is the oldest profession. You think people haven't had good head game for like thousands of years? Bro, you think people were sucking dick at a time when people didn't even shower or wipe their asses? Are you nuts? I fucking doubt it, dude. I doubt people were ever putting their faces around other people's genitals back when, like, oh, hell yes? Oh, that's nasty. Okay, I don't want to. Nancy Reagan giving that iron dome?
Baby making.
Stop.
And except for those rare occasions, husband and wife should sleep in separate beds. Kellogg himself walked the talk. The historical consensus is Kellogg probably never consummated his 40-year marriage to his wife and partner Ella. There's no specific indication that he...
Ace representation, sweaty. Y'all are just hating on another ace, man.
He was closeted. He may have been what we describe today as asexual. All of the couple's children were adopted. Of course, it's also possible that Kellogg's abstinence from nearly all forms of pleasure was out of sincere dedication to his moral, religious, and scientific beliefs. For example, Adventists believed that Adam and Eve and their progeny were all vegetarians. That's why they lived so long. It was Noah who started eating meat purely because God had wiped out all of the Earth's food supply in the flood. But now that the biosphere has long since regenerated, Kellogg felt that eating meat was unnecessary, it was unhealthy, and it was cruel.
He wrote an entire book called Shall We Slay to Eat? And it's a fascinating volume because
like most normal vegan, bro. What do you mean?
He basically says animals are sentient beings, and by slaughtering them, we're essentially killing a consciousness. The book, Shall We Slay to Eat, is very interesting because it has these line drawings of the Chicago stockyards and the slaughtering process. And some of the books have a color overlay, which is red.
Kellogg even attempted what we would call today veganism. He was an early champion of soy milk in a Western world where breakfast in particular tended to be heavy on meat and dairy for good reasons. On a farm, you milk the cows and you collect the eggs in the morning. Therefore, that's what you're going to have handy at breakfast time. And cured meats like ham and sausage and bacon were all things that you would have handy and that you could prepare very quickly when you wake up in the morning, as opposed to breads and porridges which take hours. Hence Kellogg's experimentation with pre-cooked grain products for breakfast. But the intentionally gross concoctions that he served at the San were tough for his patients to swallow, literally. Reportedly, one patient came to Kellogg one morning and said, "Hey, that hard wheat biscuit you told me to eat broke my dentures. Who's going to pay for those?" This prompted John Kellogg and his brother Will to start tinkering.
It is, you can't deny it. It is.
That's it. I'm
undeniably funny. It is undeniably funny that, like, you had a vegan man even back then who just could not stop proselytizing. Okay, he was just like, please, like the fact that he drew red paint on, like, he went back and like found red ink to just like, I'm imagining he personally drew that just so he could hit it harder. You know what I mean? That is so incredibly vegan behavior.
With things that would become cornflakes. Now that is why modern breakfast cereals came to be. How they came to be and how sugar got in there is what we'll talk about next time. In the meantime, you could watch the 1994 movie The Road to Wellville, which is a highly fictionalized and kind of porny film about Kellogg and the sanitarium. It's good fun.
Do you masticate, Mr. Lightbody?
Just like me, the real white.
I have some more informative book recommendations in the description, some of which you can listen to on Audible.
Okay, the rest of this is just a hashtag ad. Okay.
Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this stream. You guys have been a lovely audience. You're so nice and funny and send memes and clips and videos and links and all so many amazing things. We hope you take care. Please follow if you haven't already so you can see next time this guy's raging on his stream. And take care, drink some water, sleep well, and we'll see you in the next one.
Stay hydrated.
Okay, that was so much better of an outro than I've ever done. All right, bye guys.
Stay hydrated.